Welcome to our first ever sport skills development webinar. Okay. So I just wanted to first go into a little bit about me. So my name is Tawny. I am a registered kinesiologist. I've been practicing as a registered kin for about 10 years now. I started out fitness and health promotion and then did a kin degree at the University of Guelph. And then from there went on to the University of Ottawa to do a master's degree in human kinetics. A lot of people ask, what is kinesiology? The best way to kind of describe it is it's the study of human movement. So big focus of what we do is on mobility, function, and performance. Something that I've recently done in the last couple of years since Oscar's Place has opened is made the transition to pediatrics, and I'm absolutely loving it. One of my big pushes for this was having my daughter, Callie. She's 2.5 years old, and she was born 6 weeks premature. And we really struggled in that first year of life with her meeting milestones. So I have appreciation for being a parent and the everyday struggles of having a child. So tonight we're going to get into what are basic sport skills, what typical sport skills development looks like. We're going to break down each of the skills. I'm going to talk to you about how a kin can actually help your child. And then what does Oscar's Place offer for children wanting to develop sport skills? And then at the end, we will have a little question period. So what are the basic sport skills? So the sport skills we're going to talk about tonight are running, jumping, kicking, throwing, and catching. Why do we care? So why is it so important that we talk about sport skills or teach our children sport skills? A main goal when it comes to exercise is for our children to move. And from a young age, children form neurological pathways from their brains to move their bodies efficiently. These skills develop over years of growth and become more effective with practice and repetition. So that saying, practice makes perfect is true. Encouraging early sport skills supports our child's development and creates movement patterns that lead children into sport activities. So if we think of those infant reflexes and reactions, those then develop into motor skills before becoming actual sport skills. So we do have to kind of build on those foundational skills first before introducing sport skills. So if you think of something like balancing, if a child can't balance properly, how are they going to be able to kick a ball where you have to stand on one foot for a period of time? So think of it that way. You have to develop those foundational skills first. What does typical development look like? At 2 years old, a child should be able to roll, toss, and kick a ball. This is the age that they also begin to run. At the age of 3, that's when a child should be able to throw overhead, attempt to catch, kick a ball in a forward direction, and jump with 2 feet in place. And then this is where you'll start to see an actual run form at the age of 3. As we move into the age of 4, this is when a child should be able to catch a larger ball. They can attempt to catch a ball that's bounced, move forward and backwards easily, as well as be able to balance on one foot for 5 seconds. By the age of 5, this is where they can actually run while changing directions. That balance on one foot, it becomes a larger number at 10 seconds. And then they're actually able to hop on one foot by the age of 5 also. That's kind of typical development. That's what that would look like for a 5-year-old. By the age of 6, a child should be able to catch a small ball. They have good balance. And this is the age where they start to enjoy running, jumping, skipping, and other forms of physical play. By the age of 7 and 8, this is where they become a lot more coordinated in activities. So they can move dynamically to catch a ball. This is when they start to aim while they throw or kick and start to hit those targets. And they have control of those larger muscle groups. So that makes sense. Because they have control of those larger muscle groups, they can actually learn to aim their body. By the age of 9, this is when they become increasingly skilled in sports and active play. And then by the age of 10, this is when they actually develop control of those small muscle groups. So this is a big one for endurance. So by the age of 10, this is when they really start to develop endurance to run or ride a bike. And that makes sense because now they have control of the small and the large muscle groups. Okay, so let's start with running. So this is typical, it starts to emerge around the age of 2. So a couple of things, important cues just to remind your child, you want to keep their eyes focused forward, about 10, 12 feet in front of them. You want to be able to see that those obstacles are coming in front of you. So if you're looking too close in front of you, that's when you can actually trip. You want to land below their hips with their feet, arms bent at the elbows, and move opposition to their legs. So it's that reciprocal pattern. So when our left arm is forward, our right leg or knee is forward at the same time. So we want that reciprocal pattern. The ground contact should be the front part of their foot, so the midfoot to the front, and the body leans just slightly forward. So ways that we can progress running, we can increase speed, we can increase the duration of the run, or we could even add obstacles to the run. So you can add a run and have them jump over something. So those are just a few ways that we can actually progress the skill of running. So I've noted there a couple of my favorite running games for kids that we often do in some of our programs. One kind of fan favorite is Chase My Tail. So you can put like a little band in the back of your pant and run around, and kids absolutely love just trying to get the tail. It's kind of like a capture the flag for young ones. And then tag, capture the flag, any relay races, or playing red light, green light. So that's a great one for working on running, but also working on stopping and starting at the same time. And this is just play that one more time. So you can see she's running, but that reciprocal pattern hasn't formed yet. The arms are kind of flying all over, the legs are flying all over, but at the age of 2, that's kind of understandable. And that will change as the years pass by. Looking at kicking. So something I love about kicking, I love to do with my young ones, is actually place floor markers on the floor. So I love to place, 2 floor markers where, put your left foot here, put your right foot here, and then where you want them actually stepping when they're kicking. So the opposite arm and leg start in front of the kicking leg. Kick with the inner foot or with their toe. So I love to place, left foot, right foot on a floor marker. If they're kicking with their right foot, you're going to put a floor marker in front of that left foot. You're going to teach them step forward with the left foot and kick with the right. So that's just a great kind of like stationary way to teach a child to kick. How we progress. So your child has to be able to kick or do all of these sport skills from a stationary motion first before we actually add movement to it. So a good way to progress it would be run and kick. So you have them run and place, a stationary ball, and they have to kick the ball while running. Another option is actually opposite to that, where the ball is actually moving, your child is stationary, and they have to kick the moving ball. So those are a couple ways that you could progress. Using a smaller ball, so that makes it a little harder too. And then kicking using targets. So you can set up some cones. You can set up like a higher target in a net and work on actually kicking while aiming and hitting a target. Those are some ways that you can progress a kicking motion. So some of my favorite kicking games are soccer bowling, crab soccer is another great one too, soccer baseball, and then monkey in the middle. Those are some of my favorite kind of games for kids. So I'll just show you Callie kicking here. So something we've really been working on is trying to get her to take that left step to kind of swing the right foot into it. She does it sometimes, but she is working hard at that. I'll play that one more time. And you can see too, she's not quite getting that where to actually kick the ball properly in her foot. So rather with the toe or the inner foot, she's actually kicking it there off the outside of her toe. Awesome. All right, let's move into jumping. So again, jumping is an awesome one to use floor markers for. So you can place, 2 floor markers, one for your left foot, one for your right, and then place 2 floor markers a little bit further ahead, showing them that's where we want you to jump and land on. So when we're working on jumping, important cues are arms back, bend your knees, jump forward, and land with your knees in a bent position. When we say knees behind toes, we just want to make sure that we're kind of sitting back into our jumping position and not leaning forward where that actually knee goes out in front of our toes. So that's what we mean by that. There's some awesome ways to progress jumping, whether we do multiple jumps in a row, we could practice jumping further. You can practice jumping laterally to the side or backwards. A couple other ways too, jumping up onto a surface, jumping down, and then progressing to 1 foot. And that jumping typically emerges around the age of 3. Some of my favorite jumping games are animal jump, so working on frog hops, bunny hops, placing hula hoops out to jump into, playing the floor as lava. Kids love this one. So again, you can place hula hoops around and they have to stay in the hula hoops with their jumps and avoid the floor outside of them. And then your sports, your basketball and baseball are great jumping sports. So let's play this video of Callie jumping here. So you can see that first jump, she's kind of has that narrow base of support. So something we've been working on with Callie is bending her knees. She often kind of skips or gallops. So we're working on that wide leg stance just to kind of teach her to jump up and land into that bent knee position. So that's why we moved into that wide base star jump, we call it. Okay. Throwing. I love to use beanbags when kiddos are first learning to throw. It's a great option rather than a ball. You don't, if they hit you, they don't hurt, whereas a ball often does, even a tennis ball. So things you want to cue your child, you want to tell them eyes focused on the target throughout the throw. You want to keep the throwing arm nearly straightened behind the body, step towards the target with your opposite foot, and then that throwing arm follows through down and across the body. So this typically emerges around the age of 3, and then I would say by the age of 10, that's kind of perfected while playing different sports, especially baseball. You can really work on that throwing and that proper mechanics. So how to progress a throw, you can work on throwing further, you can aim at targets, and then you can add that kind of multi-skill. So you can add running while throwing. So something baseball, there's a lot of in baseball. Games I love for kids, hot potato is a great throwing game. You can spread out and play this. Baseball, and then dodgeball is another really great throwing game. I'll just show you Callie here working on her throw. So you can see there, she's got the throw down pat, but if she learned to take that step and throw, that's where her power is going to come from. So that's what we've been working on, is taking that step with that left foot and then being able to throw overhand, and you'll get a lot more distance if you can work on that power piece of stepping into your throw. She loses her balance a little at the end there. So that's another thing that we're working on too, is balance while throwing. You can see how important balance is in any sports skill. Okay. Catching. Catching is kind of the last skill to develop. Typically emerges around the age of 4. Something I love to use are balloons. So balloons are a great option to work on catching. Usually anything else, there's a lot of injuries if you're working on a ball. So try and start with a balloon. You can move yourself by working yourself backwards and then eventually introduce a ball into the mix. So important cues are eyes focused on the person throwing the ball, make your hands the known target, keep your eye on the ball and move with the ball. Open your hands and squeeze your fingers around the ball to trap it. So ways that we can progress this is you can gradually move from a balloon to a larger ball to a smaller ball. Typically too, when we first learn to catch, we're using both hands. So we can move to a baseball glove or working on those single arm or single hand catches. And then introducing those kind of multi-sport skills. So running and catching at the same time, which baseball is another great option where you're doing a lot of running and catching at the same time. So baseball is a great game to play if you're working on catching with kids. Hot potato, again, great for throwing, but also great for learning to catch. Velcro catch, this has been one that I've used a lot in the clinic. That's the Velcro piece with the tennis ball. So you can really work on catching with that. And then the game of Foursquare is another great option too. And that's a big thing. The reason I'm mentioning like kind of my little favorites are motivation is a big piece for kids. So just kind of standing and working on a sport skill, you have to make it fun for them. So I just wanted to make mention of those favorite games that kids have loved in the clinic. So you can see here, so Callie's 2, this typically emerges around the age of 4. So get ready. I didn't have a balloon blown up for this one. I would have used one, but this is just a little kind of, it's a basketball actually, but it's very soft. And you can just see her catches just a little delayed. She's ready, arms are out, hits her, then she closes. So she just hasn't established that kind of hand-eye coordination yet. And we'll just show that one more time. Okay. Awesome. Just move this here. Okay. So I have a couple of case studies here for you. How can a kinesiologist help my child? So case study number 1. So I had a 10-year-old baseball coach said to the parents they needed to work on improving speed when running from base to base. So I assessed, I did a gait assessment, and major finding was very poor running mechanics. So significant forward flexion of the body, knees were unable to raise properly due to the position of the body. And then the arms were straightened in a straightened position rather than bent from the elbows. So you can imagine if you're trying to run and your body's very forward flexed, there's no room for those knees to actually come up. But what was the root of the cause? The root of the cause I found was very weak core. So that was kind of my main finding. We need to work on core strengthening first to get the child into a more optimal trunk position, and then work on running mechanics from there. So as far as improving speed, this is not a great goal right now. Speed will come after we've mastered kind of that stationary position or just that nice running form at a low level of speed. And then once we've mastered that, we can move into adding more speed to the motion. So that, so working on core strengthening to keep the trunk upright, and then as well as working on running mechanics on the treadmill to improve overall running form. And I feel once we get through that, then we can work on the whole speed piece. So the child during baseball is able to run faster from base to base. And why, like, form is so important. The reason why is we can run improperly, but down the road or very soon we're going to have an injury because our body isn't designed to move in that way. So you can only get away with moving that way for so long before an injury will occur. Second little case study, 5-year-old, and they could only kick a ball a short distance. So why was that? So I did an assessment, And what I found was very poor single leg balance. So my plan with this child was to work on single leg strength activities and add dynamic balance to improve power with kicking. So same thing, going back to like the root cause. So we want to be able to kick that ball further, but we're unable to do that because of very poor balance. And you can imagine kicking, you have to be able to stand on one leg and kick a ball for an extended period of time, especially the more power that you want, the further you want it to go. We're on that single leg for an extended period of time. So we have to be able to have the strength and the balance to hold that, to get that full kicking motion. So going back to kind of the basics on working on that strength, adding in that balance, establishing those first before we can actually, you know, teach the child to kick a ball further. Okay. So what does Oscar's Place offer for children wanting to develop their sports skills? So one thing that we offer is one-to-one sport-specific exercise therapy sessions. So these sessions are with myself, a kinesiologist. If you have kinesiology coverage, exercise therapy, or a health spending account, they're all fully billable for reimbursement through there. And these can really look like anything, depending on what your goals are. I would do an assessment, and we would come up with goals and align them and then build a program based on that. So one-to-one sport-specific therapy sessions is something we offer. Currently, we offer a kids running group. This group has been a lot of fun. This is our second time running it. What this group entails is it always starts with a half-hour gait assessment. So I'll have the child on a treadmill. We'll work on proper mechanics, look at what the running form looks like right off the beginning, talk about how we make adjustments to that. And then we have 8 weeks. So one time a week for an hour, we go out on various runs. And they range anywhere from continuous runs to runs with intervals. They've been a lot of fun. Something else we currently have, we've run this program quite a few times, actually, maybe 5 or 6 times. So this is a kids ability sport preparation. This one is great for children if you notice they're falling behind in sports or struggling with playground activities. The focus is on agility, strength, balance, and more. So this is that program that really helps build those foundational skills before getting into those sport skills. We run these classes weekly, and they're also a lot of fun. And lastly, this is a new program that we are coming out with, hoping it'll launch in the new year in January. So this is a actual sports skills class. So this is where we're going to really fine tune those different sports skills. So not just kicking a ball, but developing power while kicking, you know, not just throwing a ball, but aiming while throwing, jumping, working on single leg jumping, not just jumping on 2 legs, dynamic catching. So we're catching a ball, but we're going to be a moving target while catching, and then improving reaction time and game scenario play. So those are important goals that I have with this new sports skills program. And the reason I love it and the reason we really came out with this is we wanted a good transition from our kiddos that are in the kids abilities class to be able to transition to a sports skills class. And then the goal is to keep building programs so those kiddos have somewhere to transition and further develop their skills. Awesome. Does anyone have any questions?
Hello?
Hello.
Hey, sorry, could you hear me? I put them down and then I had to go to my car. I was actually wondering about the new program of the age group that it would be at. And I guess, is that like to know if our child's like appropriate for it? Would that be something you'd recommend? Like you know, that my son's in the program kind of previous to that. So, so I'm asking about, sorry, age, and then like when they're appropriate. Is it an age thing or more of a skill thing?
So it's both. And yes, absolutely, that program will be appropriate for Nate after this transition through the Kids Ability program. He was actually a big reason behind building this program. And yes, this is the next step for him. And I'm excited for him to take that step.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Christina, do you have any other questions?
No, I'm good. Thank you. That was helpful. Some insight. I'm not unfortunately the most athletic or don't have an athletic background at all. And I can see some areas where Nate's struggling. So I'm really grateful for you guys. Because it's not something I need the ideas too. Like it's not something I just know how to do with my kids. It doesn't come naturally for me. So I really appreciate that.
Awesome. Lana, do you have any questions for me that maybe I didn't cover throughout or didn't answer that you think some parents may have?
No, I think it was awesome. Like it was really thorough. And I think it's just nice for parents to have a general sense of kind of the theory behind what you do and why you do it and what might look like a simple game like hot potato. It just is nice to know kind of the theory and the thought process behind it and know that that's kind of the base to next steps. So no, I think if people watch this, they'll get a lot out of it and just kind of understand a little bit more the why behind the things that you do.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining. That I got through that a little faster than I thought that I